be seeing you.
Come up to the last mission. Actually, it was my last mission. And it was on February 19th, my birthday. But I went on the mission, and there were 9 planes. And 4 of us found an opening in the clouds. And you could see down. So we went into the opening, dropped down, and we saw the ships in the harbor. And we dropped our bombs in the harbor on the ships. Well, then some pursuit ships came along, and they were shooting at us. We had to drop down because we had 2 engines shot out. So we were losing altitude. So we radioed Malta for sea rescue. And I had the inflatable boat there, and the radio, and all the other junk that they give you. And I was going to throw it out the window into the ocean. Well, we couldn't make the ocean. So we came down about maybe 35 miles away from the Mediterranean. We got out of the plane, and there were mostly Italians there. And they had pitchforks, and they had hoses, and they had all. I thought we were going to die right there. Well, they took us up to a building, and they put us in the building. And they tried to interrogate us. Well, of course, they didn't do as good a job as the Germans would do. So, a little while later, some Germans drove up. And the worst part of the interrogations was being gun-butted. They used the gun for everything, you know? And if you didn't answer the question, they hit you with the gun in the back. That's why I got a sore back. And that went on and on. I don't know how many times we were interrogated. They took us to Camp 59, which is an Italian prison camp. And we were there for 3 months. And we got friendly with one of the guards. Well, like I said, the Italians didn't care because they were tired of being put up on the front line, you know. And so anyway, we became friendly with him, and we went over the fence, 3 of us. Well, we roamed Italy for 3 months, from farmhouse to farmhouse, and we had to be careful because there's fascists in the Italian towns, and so they'd put a man at one end of the village and one man at the beginning of the village. And if anybody was coming up, they immediately got us out of the village. And we lived like that for about 3 months, from village to village to village. We hid out as long as we could, but how can you hide too long in 2 feet of snow? So we tried to get down into the valley. And when we did, we ended up on top of a German machine gun nest. Well, the minute that happened, because we had no guns, the minute that happened, one of the Germans came out, you know, and saw us and told us to put up our hands, you know. So one of them could speak a little bit of English. So he said, "You're lucky." So I said, "Well, how come we're lucky? We got caught." So he says, "You never made it down that mountain." He says, "That's all mined." They took our picture, put a number on it, and so forth. Well, of course, that was one of my, I'm Jewish, so that's one of my worries. I'm Jewish, and I've heard stories about the prison camps where they call out people that looked Jewish or were Jewish. Either way, some of them wasn't. And they took them away, and we never saw them again. Gosh, I can't remember all the months that were in the Stalag 17B. And if you kept your nose clean and everything, you were okay, unless you were Jewish. So, anyway, we could hear guns being fired up near Vienna. And they were coming from the Russians. Well, the Germans hated the Russians, and the Russians hated the Germans. So they decided eventually to evacuate the camp. I forget how many hundreds of miles we walked. It was 300, 400 miles. Two of my buddies that I was with said, "Freddie, let's take off. The guards don't give a damn." I said, "No, we're walking right towards the American lines. They're guarding us." I mean, we'd be crazy to take off. So we just walked with them. Well, there was a lot of guys that were sick, and they died on the road. It was not a pretty sight. They marched us, and then they put us in a bunch of woods. All right? And they put maybe 10 or 15 guards who were like 50, 60, 70 years old around us, who didn't give a damn, And I think there were 6 Americans that drove up in Jeeps, 3 in each Jeep. And of course they just threw their guns down and they wanted to walk away, Then they trucked us to an airport, and they flew us from the airport to Reims, France. And that's where all the guys were being evacuated to. And then they put us on a ship and they shipped us home. I was sick as a dog.